Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good morning, dear devotees from Sridham Mayapur. This morning, we just can't control ourselves. We're going to start doing a little kirtan. Shri Guru Nitai Gaur Jaya. Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava. Tota Gopinath, Tota Gopinath, Tota Gopinath, Tota Gopinath, Tota Gopinath, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranshvaranarottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Vede Ramayanishchaiva Purane Bhagavate Tata Bhagavante Chamadvita Hari Shabbatagite Mukam Karori Vachalam Bam 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 Gayate Divim Yatvipatamaham Vande Shivam Vinataranam Paramananda Madhavam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're doing something a little different. We're wearing our favorite shirt, which came from a nice person in Israel. And we're also singing Jai Radha Madhav. Right? What a radical thing to do. We just haven't found time to do our normal Mangalacharna and to sing the kirtan like we want, but I think we're going to start now every day. So we're reading from Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam, the king of all literatures. This is Canto 3, Chapter 25, Devotional Service, text number 33. This is Lord Kapila Dev speaking to his mother. Today's a short verse, it's a half a shloka. Jaratyasu yakosham nirginam anuloyata. Jarati means that which dissolves, and ashu means something very quickly. Ya, which, kosham, the subtle body. So this bhakti dissolves very quickly, the subtle body. Nirginam analayata. Nirginam means eats things up. Anala means fire, and yata, just as. Prabhupada translates it, bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. In his purport, Srila Prabhupada is described. Bhakti is in a far higher position than mukti, because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material encagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the process of his liberation. Because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Sri Bilvamangala Thakur explained this position very nicely. He said, if I have unflinching devotion, unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then mukti or liberation serves me as my maidservant. Mukti, the maidservant, is always ready to do whatever I ask. For a devotee, liberation is no problem at all. Liberation takes place without separate endeavor. Bhakti is therefore far better than mukti or the impersonalist position. The impersonalists undergo severe penances and austerities to attain mukti, but the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in the chanting and by accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of Godhead. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is a perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It's confirmed by Kapila Dev that bhakti or devotional service is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, liberation. That's a quote from the comment from the last verse. Gora graganya gana gota goloruharam Gauranga guratama gopyada kopa briksham Gopala gada ratidam yati singha gora Govinda deshikavaram satatam namami Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sumati is asking if I can make the volume louder. This is the best we can do. Put it right up here. I hope that helps more. It's connected. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're speaking something more about the nature of the spirit soul. And I wanted to title this discussion today that Bhakti wakes us up from the illusory movie of life. Srila Prabhupada gave some lecture on this verse, which is quite long. I'm not going to try to cover all the points he made, but a few things I'd like to read from that. He said there, it is stated in this verse that Bhakti dissolves the subtle body. What is a subtle body? The spirit soul has two coverings, subtle and gross. The gross body is composed of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The subtle body is composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. One is the sthula sharir, or the external physical body, and the other is called sukshma sharir, or the subtle. In Hindi and Sanskrit, the word sukshma means subtle. The subtle body is composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. Of the 8 material elements, 5 are gross and 3 are subtle. We cannot see the subtle, and the soul is even more subtle. Anyone with eyes can see the body, but not everyone can perceive the soul, the actual person. When we understand that the soul, the person, has left the body, we cry, "Oh, my friend is left." We can perceive that the body is there, but something is obviously missing. For those persons who are fortunate enough to work with people who are leaving their bodies, dying, like Lynn McDougall, my friend, it's a good thing, it's a healthy thing, because death is something you see before you regularly, and it helps to remind us that I'm not this body. I remember seeing years ago, it was a very, very, I thought hysterically funny excerpt from a movie called The Kentucky Fried Movie. It's a little mundane, I'm sorry. But it started off with one person making a fundraising benefit. And he said that we'd like to collect money for to help the dead, or something like that. And it said there's so many people, it's going on all over the world. So many people are dying. It's a big crisis, so we have to figure something out about this. And it said that we've helped many different people. And they show some family, here's the Smiths or whatever, and they lost their dear Johnny. And it shows this, but we've showed them how they can go on without their dear son that died. And it shows apparently they stuffed the dead body of that little boy. And we showed them how they can keep Johnny with them everywhere. And they're watching television, and Johnny's dead body is sitting up against the sofa. And then they take him to a baseball game. And everybody's watching the game, and Johnny's got some popcorn in his lap. And all of a sudden his body falls forward and his face lands in the popcorn. and we take him swimming with us, and it shows the dead body laying face down in the swimming pool. And it says, so give generously to help, to relieve the dead. Something. So it's an absurd thing. If someone thinks that we actually are the body, just like there's certain religionists who believe that there's going to be a second coming, and that we're going to rise up in these bodies, even though the body's been laying in the grave and been eaten by worms, and it's completely rotted and disgusting. That body, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to heaven in that body. It's a kind of foolishness. So the first lesson in spiritual life is that we need to understand the difference between the self and the body. And it's not just such an ABC thing, because Srila Prabhupada stressed this so much, even for devotees. And we need to understand what the Bhagavatam and Vedic literature is described as upadis, or designations. Srila Prabhupada speaks about this. He says, we can perceive that the body is there, just like Johnny, but something is obviously missing. Thus, one's friend is actually different from the body. At the present moment, we say, this is my friend. We refer to the body, but that is simply the vision of an animal. Animals think, this is my dog friend, and this is my mother dog. They cannot see beyond the gross body. Similarly, we cannot see the soul, and if we cannot see the minute soul, how can we hope to see God with these blunt eyes? Prabhupada goes on. Generally, at death, we can understand that something is gone. We understand that what we were seeing was not actually our friend, but a lump of matter. This is knowledge. However, one who understands before death that the body is simply a lump of matter is called a wise man. He sees the soul through the eyes of knowledge. Those who are on the gross platform, who are like animals, can see neither the soul nor Bhagavan, God. The karmis, the gross fruitive workers, do not understand the distinction between the body and the soul. So we should understand what is the soul, what is the difference between the soul and his body. As Krishna says in the Gita, we were quoting the other day, Natveva aham jatu nasam natvam neme janadi paha nachaiva nabhavishyama saveva yamata param. He tells Arjuna, Natveva aham, never was there a time jatu nasam that I didn't exist. Never was there a time when you didn't exist. Never was there a time when all these kings on the battlefield didn't exist, nor nabhavishyama saveva yamata param. Nor was there ever going to be a time in the future when any of us will cease to be. In other words, individuality is an eternal and intrinsic part of the living entity. Krishna again in the 15th chapter of the Gita says, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastenayanani prakriti stani karshati. He says that the living entities here, mamaivam so jiva loke, the jivas, the living entities, are my angso, my fragmental parts. And because of this material nature, this prakriti, they're struggling greatly with the mind and the senses. This misidentification, the Bhagavatam says, arises due to our absorption in matter. People in psychiatry, they speak about an identity crisis. But if we contemplate the matter, everyone is going through an identity crisis. That's what material life means. And we're trying to understand identity through something external. If 5 people like my Facebook post that I made, then it means I'm popular. Everybody loves me. I'm a cool person because 5 people liked my Facebook thing. If I get 5 comments, or maybe even 1 or 2 comments on this lecture today, and someone says, wow, that was such a great class. You're so smart, and you're so handsome, and obviously very humble also. Then I'll think, damn, I'm practically an incarnation. I'm a very, very advanced devotee. It must be so because 5 people said it. Or else we go and we try to purchase our identity. I wear faded Levi jeans because I'm cool. I have a ponytail. I'm a guy and I have a ponytail. I'm a cool guy. Or I'm a fantastically beautiful woman, and all the men just fall down at my feet and offer me flowers and chocolates because I'm a goddess. And then we identify like that, and we go to the store and we buy a cowboy hat. Yes, I'm a conservative guy, or I'm a this or that. And we buy a big gun. We buy some leather clothes, and by that we think, this is me. And all of these things, these are there. These are called viparyaya smriti. Viparyaya means misidentification, which causes asmriti, or forgetfulness of who we really are. And because of that, this dvitiya binivesita shat arises, this absorption in something separate than the Lord. And then bhaya, or fear, comes. And misidentifying us, then we think, I am a beautiful girl, I am a hunky guy, I am an American, I am a Russian, I am male, I'm female, I'm this, I'm that. And all of these things are what causes us unlimited suffering. But the nature of bhakti is that without any separate effort, bhakti burns it all to ashes. All the subtle body of the living entity. As Prabhupada was saying in his lecture, we have a gross body, and we have a subtle body. If we analyze, we can see there are 3 different types of affection in this world. One is called stula priti, or stula deha priti, affection based on the body. And we say, damn, she is hot. She's so beautiful. But, Hare Krishna, if someone throws acid in the face of that beautiful girl, or if that beautiful girl decides that she needs to eat lots and lots of ice cream and pizza, 1 year later she becomes bigger, at least her body. And then she's no longer attractive to us. But it's the same personality. This is stula deha priti. Someone has affection for the body. And that type of affection the Bhagavatam describes as hoitaki, pratiyata. It's motivated and it has an ending to it. Whereas real love is ahoitaki, apratiyata. It has no motivation and it never has any end. Higher than stula deha priti is sukshma deha priti, or I love her because she likes to play chess. I love her because she likes Tchaikovsky. She likes classical music. But then later on you go to her house and you find she's dancing with the volume turned up all the way on her stereo to some punk rock music. And you're very shocked. And she says, yeah, I decided I didn't like classical music anymore. Now I like punk rock. And somebody has a crisis then. Because your affection for that person was based on this subtle liking, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. But real love is there with the jivatma. Jaiva dharma means the nature, the science of the soul. And we should know what is Jaiva Dharma. It's not enough, just like the impersonalists or some Buddhists understand we're not this body. That's not enough. What am I then? What do I like to do? And why am I suffering? When Sanatana Goswami took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, those were his first questions that he had to the Lord. I don't know. It's not giving anything. Press the button. Working. He said, who am I and why am I suffering? Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, one of the first things that he says is, he describes bhakti which having 6 characteristics, which is a very big topic. We'll just mention the first characteristics. Kleshagni. He said, Kleshagni, the very beginning thing is that bhakti destroys all the kleshas, all the different sufferings. And the sufferings are due to misidentification with the body and the mind. When the living entity tries to enjoy separately from Krishna, then they become like a person who's possessed by a ghost. The Jagadananda Pandit in, Jagadananda Pandit in Prema Vivarta, he speaks about this. Pisachi paile jina mati chana hoy maya grasta jivira hoy sebhava udo. He says that the living entity becomes like a slave of Maya, Maya grasta jivira, a slave of illusion. And he acts like someone who's possessed by a witch or by a ghost. Ghosts actually exist according to Vedic science. They're living entities who did something very, very sinful. And as a result, they have a subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego, but they don't have a gross body. And ghosts, according to Vedic literature, they can smell, but they can't taste, they can't touch, they can't experience anything else of the senses. But they have the desire. And so they're tortured. They have a desire to enjoy being with a member of the opposite sex. They have a desire to eat. They have a desire, but they can't enjoy those things with their senses. So Jagadananda Pandit describes the nature of that soul. Amisida Krishna Das Ekata Bhule Mayarana Farahana Chiradina Bhule. Having forgotten his position, Amisida Krishna Das, that my nature as a soul is that I'm Krishna's servant. Then Mayara Nafara. Nafara means a slave. I become a slave of Maya, illusion. And I go from one body to another. And this is called the movie of life. What if you decided, I want to go to see a wonderful movie with my girlfriend or boyfriend? And you go to the movie and it's a good movie. You're watching the movie, it's very entertaining. And you forget all about yourself, all about your suffering. But in that movie, what if you can never leave the movie theater and you have to stay there for the rest of your life and just watch movies one after another? And you can't understand then what your life is. You can't perform your own activities. All that you're doing is living in a movie. Or as Lynn says here, oh my heavens, we're a terribly silly species. So Jagadananda Pandit says, Kabu Raja, Kabu Praja, Kabu Vipra Shudra, Kabu Snuki, Kabu Suki, Kabu Kita Shudra. He says that the living entity, Kabu means sometimes in Bengali. Kabu Raja, sometimes I'm the king, and life is good. And you can address me as Your Majesty, Mr. Trump. I'm the king. Or Kabu Praja, sometimes it's not so good. And I'm an ordinary citizen, and I'm suffering, and people, the police are abusing me, or whatever. Kabu Vipra, sometimes you're a Brahmin. Kabu Sudra, sometimes you're just a hard worker. Sometimes you're an intellectual, Sudra, a Vipra, Brahmin. Kabu Duki, sometimes you're very unhappy. Kabu Suki, sometimes you're very happy. Kabu Kita Chudra, sometimes you take birth as an insect in stool. This is the movie of our life. Kabu swarge, kabu marti, narakeva kabu. Sometimes you go to heaven and there's lots of beautiful babes and hunky guys and whatever you like. Then kabu marti, then you have to come back down to earth again. Sometimes you take birth in Hollywood or Beverly Hills. And then other times you take birth in Ethiopia and Africa. Narakeva kabu. Sometimes you have to go to hell. Kabu deva. Sometimes you become a demigod or a Hollywood movie star. Kabu daicha. Sometimes you're a demon. Kabu das. Kabu prabhu. Sometimes you're a servant. Sometimes you're a master. Erupe samsara brahmite kona jan sadhu sange nija tattva avagatahan. My grandma used to quote this a lot. While going from one birth to another, if by good fortune, sadhu sangha nija tattva avagatahan, you come in contact with a saintly person, then you can understand, I'm not this body. Rather, what am I? The nature of the soul. The inherent quality of the soul is to be a servant of Krishna. Nija tattva janiyai samsarana chai kinava bhajinu maya kori hoi hoi. Then when you understand who I really am, I'm not a cowboy. I'm not a sophisticated movie actress. I'm not a hunky weightlifter guy or a beautiful babe. I'm a spirit soul. But why have I been serving Maya, this illusion, for so long? And then comes what my grandma has called Atma Krandana, or the crying of the soul. Kende bole oh hey Krishna ami tavadas tomara charana chari hoila sarvanas. Oh Krishna, you begin to cry, Ami tavadas, I'm your eternal servant, but tomara charana chari, I left your lotus feet, and hoila sarvanas, now everything has become ruined. And when we begin to cry like this, then we become freed from material illusion. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's given a very wonderful song in his Kalima Kopatayu, which describes the movie of our life. Bhagya samsare Krishna He said, I've gotten this durlabha manava janma, this very rare human birth, but what have I done with it? I still didn't worship Krishna. I didn't understand the nature of the soul to worship God. And because of that, dukkha, I am suffering so much. And I'm thinking, I am a boy, I am a girl. This is my husband, this is my wife, these are my children. Samsara, samsara kore, niche lokala. Labhana kwahilo kichu gatilo janja. So I became a householder. I got married because I thought this will bring me happiness if I can always be with this girl. But that thing which I thought would bring me unlimited happiness, kichu gatilo janja, all that it brought me was unlimited suffering. Chaya Bhaji Praya Ihate Mata Kori He said, what kind of world is this? Chaya Bhaji. It's like a magician's illusion. Or as a friend of ours, Dasra Sutta Prabhu, translated this, he said such a beautiful thing. What kind of world is this anyway? It seems just like a magic lantern show that I saw at a carnival, wherein so many shadows and optical illusions dance magically before my eyes. I feel great attachment and identification with such a world. And thus, day after day passes by fruitlessly without any purpose whatsoever. Bhakti Vinod goes A deha patana, when this body falls down, then what will still be mine? Will my children be mine? Will my friends be mine? They won't be able, Bhaktivinoda says, Kehosuk nahi dibe putra paribar. They won't be able to give me any happiness at all. Rather, what is my life like? Garda bira mata ami kodi parishrama kara lage to kodi nagachi. He said, rather, Garda bira mata ami, I become a donkey doing parishram, very hard work. Yes, dear, whatever you want, dear, I'll get it for you right away, dear. We need a new car. We need a new television. We need a new house. We need new clothes. And I'm serving. I become a slave to the credit card, a slave to some big corporations, a slave to my wife, or to my husband, a slave to my children. Bhaktivinoda says, Diya Jaya Niche Taje Nisha Nidra Bhase Nahi Bhavi Marana Nikate Hache. I waste my days and nights working. All my day long I'm working, some people working all night, and then I sleep the rest of the day. And I don't understand. Nahi Bhabi. I don't think. Nahi Bhabi. I'm not thinking. Marana Nikati Achi Bose. The death is approaching me. 100% guarantee you're going to die. In fact, everybody's going to die. Bhaktivinoda says, this is the movie of my life. Balo manda kai heri parichinta hina nahi babe deho chari bokonadi. Sometimes Bala, everything's good. And sometimes Manda, everything's bad. Sometimes I have nice things to eat. Life is very good. We have very good Italian pizza, prasad. And then other times the foods are not so good. But I'm thinking, Chintahina, I have no anxiety. I'm very happy. You go to the cancer ward and see someone. So many people, you ask them, how's it going? Yeah, just fine. Things are going good. It's all right. I'm nice show on television today that I saw. He's dying. But he doesn't see, he doesn't understand this. And he says, Nahi Babi, I don't understand that Deha Chari Bhakondi. Someday this body is going to disappoint me. My best friend, the best friend that I ever grew up with, the most intimate friend I ever had in my whole life, that I always depended upon, who would always be there, who would always serve me, would always help me, would always give me pleasure. Now that friend in my old age has become my enemy. That friend is my body. which I'm depending on so much. And now I'm feeling great anxiety. Where did my bodily youth go? Huh? Where did my beauty go? What's going to happen to me? Now I'm suffering so much. Bhaktivinoda says, Deho deho kalatrahi chinta virata jadi cheli goe mora buri hata. He says, now I'm becoming so worried all the time. I have a mortgage, and my wife, I don't know, she's staying out late every day. She says she's working, but maybe she's seeing another man. Huh? And my body's causing so much trouble now. All these anxieties, he says. Buddhi kori hata. It's destroying my intelligence. Hoya hoya nahi babi anucha esaba jivana vigate kota nahi bebaya. He said, alas, hoy hoy, I didn't know that everything would be destroyed. When my life ends, what will happen to all my wealth, all my glories, my beauty, and all my opulence and things? What will happen to it? This is the movie of our life. He said, then my body will be sent to the smasana, the cremation grounds. And then all the birds and the insects will say, yes, very good. Now we have a very big feast. Kukura Sridala Saba Anadita Hoye Mahotsaba Koribe Amara Dehoye. Then all the Kukur means dogs and Shridala means jackals. All of them Sabha Anandita, they'll all be very happy. And Mahotsava Koribe, they'll have a great festival to eat my dead body. Very, very good day. And this is all I've worked so hard. Bhaktivinoda says, Jai Deha E Gati. This is the goal, the fate of my body. And it's also the fate of all my friends and my kinsmen. This is the story of my life. So the nature of the jiva, Krishna and Nityadas, is that to be the eternal servant of God. And in India we call him Krishna. In other places they call him Yahweh, they call him Jehovah. But this is our intrinsic quality of the soul. And unless we're engaged in the service of God, we won't feel satisfaction. So the process of religion, the process of yoga, is to understand the difference between the body and the self. And here in this verse, Lord Kapila Dev, he's saying that very quickly, he uses the word ashu, very, very quickly, all this subtle body, all this identification with matter will go away and we'll be able to understand who we are. I'd like to finish with a story. There was one king in Rajasthan, in a city named Gragongada. In Gograndada, that king there, his name was Pipata Pratapa, or Pipa by short. And he was a righteous king. He was a devotee of goddess Durga. And one day some Vaishnavas came to his city and he greeted them and offered them some prasadam from the goddess Durga. And they said, nothing personal, but we don't do that. We only eat Krishna prasadam. We have our deity of Krishna with us. And we only accept his prasad, his remnants of his food after offering him things. We don't take any prasadam from the demigod. So the king gave them some fruits and vegetables and grains. They accepted that, they cooked for the Lord, and they offered it. And then they prayed, "Oh Lord, please transform the mentality of the king and convert him into your devotee." And so in this way, he got the blessings of the Vaishnavas. he rendered some service for the Vaishnavas. This is how powerful the practice of bhakti is. When we engage in the different practices of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, ninefold processes of bhakti, hearing and chanting, remembering, or as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put it in a shorter way, Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Nam, Bhagavat Shravan, to associate with the devotees, to chant the holy names, to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dambas, to live in the holy Dham, to worship the deity. When we engage in those activities, even unknowingly, then something happens to the soul. And those coverings of the soul that make us convinced, I am this beautiful woman, I am this young person, I'm an old person, I'm poor, I'm rich, I'm a king, I'm a miserable servant. All those things go away like a person waking up from a dream, or like a person who walks out of the movie theater. While the movie was going, he becomes completely absorbed and he really thinks, that's me. I'm the superhero who's defeating so many people single-handedly. And then when he walks out again, he's just a miserable, skinny little Hare Krishna devotee, or whatever it is. And he has to deal with reality. So that night, after the Vaishnavas gave him that prasadam and things, the king had a frightening dream. He saw a very terrific ghost, a very frightening ghost, grabbed him and threw him on the ground. He was crying in fear. The next morning, he was thinking about the dream, and he understood by Krishna's arrangement, because his soul was becoming a little awake, that the ghost was one of the animals that he'd sacrificed before the goddess. And understanding that, detachment began to manifest in his heart. And then he went to pray to the goddess and asked her, how can I become free from the illusion? How can I attain shelter of the Lord? And so she told him, go to Kashi and take shelter of Ramananda Swami. He's your guru, and do whatever he says. And so the king immediately just walked away from his kingdom, loudly chanting the holy names of Krishna. And his people thought, he's gone nuts. What happened to our king? He just left home, giving up everything, and now he's chanting. And so finally, Sri Pipa, he arrived at the ashram of the sadhu, Ramananda Swami, and he wanted to go and see him, but the guard stopped him. Wait a minute. No one can enter without the permission of Gurudev. You wait here and I'll go and ask him. Tell me, what's your name? And he said, my name's Pipa. I'm the king. And then the Acharya, Swamiji, told him, he said, you tell the guard, we are renounced persons. What do we have to do with kings? And so when people heard this message, which again affected the soul, what am I thinking? I'm a king. And so he gave up his dress as a king in a mood of complete surrender. And again he asked the guard, please tell him I'm here. But again, Swamiji sent this message, you tell him we don't want anything to do with him. He should jump in a well. And when people heard this, he was very happy. And he went, oh, there's a well there. And he went, he was going to go and jump in the well. But the sadhu's servants caught him and saved his life. Seeing his determination to understand the spirit soul and to act on the platform of the soul and not to act on the platform, I'm a king, I'm this and that, the sadhu was very happy with him and gave him his darshan, gave him initiation. And by the mercy of his guru, devotion, strong devotion of the Lord woke in his heart. And then his Gurudev, Ramananda Swami, told him, now go back to your country and you should render service to the Vaishnavas. And after about a year, if we hear that you've been serving the Vaishnavas nicely and they're satisfied with you, then we may come and visit you. And so he returned back and he served the Vaishnavas, the saintly persons, so nicely. He had great faith and love for the devotees. And after about a year had passed, he wrote a letter to his Gurudev saying, please, show mercy on your servant. Please visit my palace. So when he got that invitation, his Gurudev, Ramananda Swami, took about 40 of his disciples and set out for the kingdom. And they arrived there with this big group of disciples and servants. And Pipa came out to greet him and brought a palanquin to offer to his Gurudev. And then he offered obeisances to his Guru and all the other devotees. He chanted nice mantras, auspicious mantras, and he was giving gold coins to all the devotees. He escorted them into the palace, and he fed them very sumptuous, nice prasadam. Seeing the devotion and service to the devotees and the Lord that he was doing, his Gurudev Ramananda said, "Oh, you're doing very well. You can choose what you want to do. You can stay here at home and serve the Lord, or you can renounce everything and do your bhajan. Both are equally good for you." And when he heard this, Pipa fell down at the feet of his Gurudev and cried and said, "Gurudev, please, eternally keep me as a servant to your lotus feet." So he's ready to give up everything. But meanwhile, Pipa, he had 20 queens. He's a king. That's what they do. They have lots of queens. And when his queens heard his comment that he was ready to leave everything, they kind of went, "Excuse us, we're here also, and you have this responsibility for us." So Pipa said, "No, I'm going." He said, "Well, okay, then we'll all go with you." But the queen said, No, we're going to go with you." Pipa said, No, you shouldn't come. But they wouldn't listen to him. None of them agreed to stay at home without their husband. Finally, Pipa said, "Okay, look, you can come with me and leave home, but on this condition. You have to give up all your makeup." And the ladies started looking very nervous. "No makeup?" "Second thing, you have to give up all your ornaments, your necklaces and jewelry and things." The ladies were looking very nervous by then. "And the third thing is you have to give up your opulent clothes. And if you can do this, then I'll allow you to come with me." All the queens, none of them were willing to do this, and they all started crying. But one of them was there. Her name was Sita Sahachari, which literally means someone who's following Sita, the consort of Lord Ramachandra. She was ready to follow the order of her husband. And she gave up all of her royal attire, her ornaments. She gave up even her makeup, her lipstick, and her fingernail polish, and whatever it was, She gave up all those things, even her expensive shampoo. "And I'll go with you. I'm willing to do this." So then Sri Pipa told her, and then you change into a very simple dress, right, and give up the last ornaments you've got. And she's ready to do that. But Ramananda Swami, his guru, when he saw that, he said, "This lady, she's a chaste lady. And you should show compassion to her. You should let her take her nice ornaments and things." And Sri Pipa, then he told his guru, he said, "Actually, I don't have any affection for my wife. I don't think this is my wife. I'm a spirit soul. What connection do I have with her? I don't need to take her with me. So, Gurudev, please, if you really give your mercy, then make some arrangement for her to go with someone else." And then his guru again reminded him, "No, this lady is a very, very good lady. She's taking shelter of you, and she's a devotee. You have no choice. You must take her with you." And so then this is a story of Sri Pipa's renunciation. And Sri Pipa's the awakening of Sri Pipa to his understanding of being a spirit soul. Because this is the nature of bhakti. It wakes us up from the illusory movie of life. When we begin to just practice bhakti in the very beginning, Kleshagni Shubhada Moksha, in the very beginning, the very first thing is Kleshagni destroys, like a fire, all the different anxieties, suffering. Like this verse describes, Jayat Yashu Yakosham. It very quickly dissolves the subtle body of the living entity and all the attachments and all the identification that we have. Because bhakti is the dharma or the intrinsic nature of the soul. Yoga or other processes, giving in charity or studying the scriptures, and that's not the intrinsic quality of the soul. And they don't act on the soul in the same way. But bhakti is jaiva dharma. It's the natural dharma, the natural propensity of the living entity. And when we begin to practice that bhakti, then we wake up, just like someone who's been sitting in a movie for 100 years or so many years, watching the same movie over and over again and thinking this is me. So we'll stop there. I'm later than I wanted to go. I'm going to get chastised. Is anybody, Madhu Patipu has a nice comment. Many psychiatric illnesses are actually a state of being possessed by an envious ghost. how best to explain this to a materialistic psychiatrist. Well, Lynn has made a comment there. I want to read what she says because she's a healthcare professional. She says, very interesting. It is almost as if we're chasing after our own ghost shadow through our continuous grasping after things of the world to secure our true identity. In general, my comment would be to Madhupati Prabhu that we can't speak anything to someone unless they have faith in us. If someone doesn't have faith in us, they're a materialistic psychiatrist, then what we can do is behave in such a way that they'll develop faith in us. And they'll begin to consider, oh, this person's a saintly person. It's not enough just to come and speak some theoretical philosophy, but we have to live that. We have to walk the talk. Otherwise, people are not impressed. And Patrick, oh, thank you very much for your nice comments. Brajabanita, thank you. Thank you for the shirt, Brajabanita. It's too hot for anything else. Ah, and Sasha's here today. Hare Krishna, Sasha. Nice to see you. Krishna Krohn and Anupayani Radha are calling out to you. And Krishna Krohn has a comment she wants to share with us. Yeah.
You spoke about identity crisis and how by practicing any of the 9 angas of bhakti, this conviction that we have that we are this body just dissolves. Bhagavatam says that. And I wanted to read a short few sentences from Danodam Raj's last Monday morning greetings, because I really thought it was very relevant here. Bhakti means devotion or love for God. Love manifests through relationship. The heart of chanting must be a call to understand our relationship with God. That is the specialness of the Bhakti theology. Am I a lover, parent, friend, or Lord? Who am I? Please fully instill that sense in my heart. So this is chanting Hare Krishna.
Yes, it awakens us up naturally. So someone's asking, what if that materialistic psychiatrist happens to be your wife? Well, then it's really difficult, because I can tell you honestly, living with different people, they hardly ever give respect to you. People become complacent, and then they don't give proper respect. It's very, very difficult. So what can we do? We can't demand respect. We just have to behave in such a way to touch their heart, which may mean that we serve them, we give them love and affection, and we show that we're detached, and this is for me, and you do as you like. You know, I don't. What else can we do? Because bhakti is not something that you can force on someone. Anupayani, do you have any comments? Okay, here's Anupayani Radha. Listen carefully.
You need to listen carefully, definitely. I just wanted to say a few words about this crisis of identity crisis. That I just immediately remember the verses Gopi Partur Padakamara Dasa Dasa Anudasa, that this is the only chance not to be in the identity crisis. And you said that everybody in this world have this crisis, and as a fortunate souls who got the message of Srila Prabhupada, we at least theoretically we accepted this fact that I'm a servant of the servant of the servant, but still it's a long way to really get this real identity, and this is just. But it's amazing way. I just was thinking that even theoretical understanding of my real nature will give relief. But if you're really realizing this, this is really pleasure. This is really nectar.
So to kickstart our understanding that we're not this body, we're a soul, Krishna's made arrangement that we come in contact with Sadhu Guru. And like Sri Pipa, the more that he served the Vaishnavas, the more blessings he got from the Lord. This is the beginning to awaken. This is a very, very powerful thing to awaken our love for Krishna and our understanding that I'm a spirit soul. When we serve the Vaishnavas, when we serve Guru, and we begin to identify ourselves as a servant of the saintly persons, not just a theoretical way. Lynn makes a comment, what a wonderful class. It's always been such an honor to be with those at the very last moments of their lives. For those of you who don't know, Lynn is a very interesting person. She's a transcendentalist. We've been practicing Buddhism for many, many years. And she works in a hospice which is something which fascinates me. I have some friends who do like this also. We have some devotee hospices actually. And to be with people at the time of their death, it's always been something I wanted. We had the good fortune to be with one of our teachers, Fakir Mohan Prabhu, when he left his body. And we were chanting right next to his bed. It meant so much to me to be able to do that. It's a very, very special thing to be with someone, to try to help them to leave this world by reminding them of Krishna. So thank you for your comments and thank you for taking part in this, all the devotees and Lynn and everyone else. Sasha, Hari Bola, Hare Krishna. So tomorrow is Friday and we won't be here tomorrow. There's a secret going on tomorrow. But the next day, Saturday, we'll again be back with our Bhagavatam class. So thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhischa kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam